Hello and welcome to my Premier League predictions video. Obviously last time I did the Championship, now I've promoted myself up to the Premier League. Just like in my Championship video, I'm going to be comparing my predictions to AI, seeing if it can take over my job. So as I go through each place, I'll say who AI has for them as well. I think the league this season is going to be quite interesting. I think it will be kind of split into almost 4 or 5 almost like mini groups. As I go through my predictions, I'll be telling you what teams and positions I think will be in those sort of groups. And at the end of the video, I'll be putting up my full table as well as AI's full table. In 20th, and I've gone for Burnley. I can't see them being as bad as Southampton, but I can't see them getting more than 30 points. Obviously, they've kept Scott Parker and they've signed loanees from last season like Zian Fleming. He scored 12 goals last season, and he'll probably be a backup for Armando Broja. As well as that, 2 other signings in Bashir Humphreys for 12 million. Played 25 out of a possible 32 games for them last season. Chukwu looks like a decent pickup. He's kind of a good defensive midfielder and he can also play as an 8. Dubravka will bring in Premier League experience, but obviously the main experience signing is Kyle Walker. Obviously it remains to be seen how well Walker can do. He's been declining a lot recently. The defence for the majority still looks quite solid. However, Trafford has left. He kept 29 clean sheets for them and he only conceded 16 goals last season. I mean, I don't care if it's the Championship. That is one of the best defences in English football ever. They've also let go of their captain and their top goal scorer, Josh Brownhill, for free. CJ Egan-Riley's also gone to Marseille for free, so 2/5 of that defence from last season isn't going to be there this time round. As well as that, Burnley have got goal scoring issues. Jane Nanty and Marcus Edwards have now come in permanently, but last season they only scored more than 2 goals in one game 7 times. Prem defence will be stronger and it's already kind of showing how weak their attack actually is. They didn't score in 2 of their pre-season games against Stoke and Lazio, with a fairly strong attack. Despite keeping Scott Parker, like I said at the start, he'll be looking to maintain that defensive solidity, but he's not done well in the Prem historically. And AI for 20th place, they've got Leeds. In 19th place, and I've gone for Sunderland. After almost 10 years not being in the Prem, I think it'll only be 1 season back for them. The permanent signing of Enzo Lefebvre looks good because he'll already know the squad and there's no adjusting time. As well as that, youngsters who will be hungry to impress like Habib Diarra, Chemsdine Taibi, Noah Siddiqui, they all look like good signings. Simon Adingra is one of the only signings they've made who has Prem experience. But like I said, with Burnley, the main experienced signing is Granit Xhaka, as well as Reynaldo and Masuaku, who are experienced at the top level. Guiu on loan looks like a very good purchase. I watched a lot of him last season at Chelsea and I thought he was probably their best striker, to be honest. I thought he suited their system the best because he was an absolute pressing monster. He was an aerial threat, but we never saw how good of a clinical finisher he was. As well as that, the Stadium of Light will be a very tough away ground to go to. Only 2 key departures for the Black Cats, obviously Joe Bellingham, who played 43 games from the last season, and then the playoff winner, Tom Watson. Although there are a lot of new signings, I think it will take a bit of time for them to gel. They'll have almost a completely brand new starting 11, and as well as that, 6 of the new signings will probably be leaving for AFCON in December. Like I said, a lot of their signings are unproven in the Prem. I also think that their defence and their goalkeeper are just too weak, to be honest. They've had 5 losses in 8 pre-season games. They've not scored in 4 of them. They've only scored 7, and 4 of them were in 1 game. They've conceded 11. It's not looking good for the Black Cats. 19th place, and AI does agree with me, they have gone with Sunderland. 18th place, and I've gone with Brentford. Their back line, if you exclude the goalkeeper, have been untouched from any outgoings so far. I think it'll be very interesting to see what system Keith Andrews sets up with. He's been using a 4-2-3-1 in pre-season, but I think a back 5 is more suited to them, especially with those attacking wing-backs. Flecken, Norgard, and Mbuemo, Visser and Frank have all left. I know that Visser hasn't left yet, but he's not training with the squad. I'd be surprised if he does end up staying. They are 4 of Brentford's most important figures, or at least they have been in recent years, and now they're not there. Thiago, who they signed last season as a replacement for Tony, he was injured the whole of last season, so he's still unproven, and we don't know how good he is. Kelleher for 13 million looks like a decent coup, but he's never been a consistent starter in the Prem, and he's always played behind one of the best defences in the league. However, he is a brilliant shot stopper, so I think he'll kind of be similar to Ramsdale with Southampton last season, where he's pretty much just saving everything. Like I said, Keith Andrews has never been a manager before. He was rejected by MK Dons as their manager, and the squad will know him, but as the set-piece coach, is he going to demand authority instantly from the players? They conceded the 8th most goals in the league last season with 57. Their attack has been massively weakened, and the outscore the opponent approach is not going to work now. 18th place, and AI's gone for Burnley, meaning that they think all 3 promoted will go straight back down. In 17th place, and I've gone with the final of the promoted sides, Leeds United. They've signed a lot of physically imposing players. Luca Perry, their new keeper, is almost 200 centimetres. Anton Stack is 194 centimetres. Bijol and Bornau are both 190. They scored 95 goals last season, which was absolutely miles ahead of the rest of the championship. Their defence was massively overlooked. They only conceded 30 goals last season and they kept 25 clean sheets. And that was with Melia, who has made a lot of mistakes. Now that he's not going to be the starting goalkeeper, that should mean that they're not going to concede as many silly errors. The majority of their squad has stayed the same, and obviously they've got 3 draws and 3 pre-season games. However, Daniel Farke is just not a Prem quality manager. He's only got 6 wins, 26 points in total in 49 games. Joel Piroe and Luca Mecca, they're not Prem proven strikers. Piroe only scored 19 goals last season, and he scored 4 of them in the last game of the season. Their squad still lacks a lot of Prem quality. 17th place, surviving by the skin of their teeth, and this is a massive shock for me. They've gone for Nottingham Forest. So with that signals the end of what I would call Group 1. I think 20th to 17th is probably going to be the relegation battlers. I think pretty much everyone above them will be safe from relegation. And the first of those teams in 16th is Everton. Under Moyes, they were the 9th best team in the league last season. They conceded 17 in 18 games. And with Branthwaite signing a new contract, that defence is going to stay completely solid. There's now a backup for Mikalenko in Asnu. Tiana Barry for 26 million is almost a Beto duplicate. Dewsbury Hall and Carlos Alcaraz on a permanent look like a good double midfield signing. But obviously, Jack Grealish on loan is the big talking point. While it's not confirmed yet, there's a massive chance that he's going to end up going. And that could potentially revive his kind of free number 10 role. Tyler Dibbling from Southampton, it's kind of faded away recently, but I think they could potentially go back in from later in the window. However, despite the signings they've made, 12 players have gone out the door. They've only got 20 senior players in the squad right now. As well as that, the new stadium, it's 50-50 for me. I could see it potentially pushing them forward a bit now that they could get more fans in, but I think it might feel a bit like an away game. They've not had a single win in pre-season, 4 losses and 2 draws. It's not looking promising. They've scored 4 goals. One of them was an own goal and one of them was a pen. So they've scored 2 from open play and they've conceded 10. They've got the potential to finish high, but I think they need to make a lot of signings fairly quickly. 16th place, AI is predicting a massive drop-off for Bournemouth. In 15th place for me, and I've gone with Wolverhampton Wanderers. Vitor Pereira, he's got the backing of the fans, that's for sure. He goes to the pub after every single game. And in his 21 games in charge, they were the 11th best team in the league. He's kind of proven that he didn't necessarily need Cunha. With that 6-game winning streak, he wasn't there for the majority of it. Strand Larson on a permanent signing looks like a good option. He scored 14 goals for them in 35 games. And John Arias from Fluminense looks like a decent option as well. He got 17 goal contributions for them in 35 games last season, and I think he'd potentially bring a bit of that flair to Wolves' side. Like I already said, that they've lost Cunha, but I think Ain't Nouri, Semedo and Sarabia are kind of bigger losses. Semedo played 37 games for them last season, Sarabia played 28. They are big players and they've not really replaced them. If Arias is the replacement for Cunha, then Lopez is the replacement for Sarabia. The replacement for Ain't Nouri is a guy called Wolf. Wolves have signed Wolf. That was just destined to happen at one point, surely. But for me, they still need to sign players. They've not had a backup for Semedo come in yet, and unless they're going to use Kiana Hoover or Doherty, an aged Doherty, I think their right-hand side will be slightly weak. They've had 3 losses and a 1-1 draw in pre-season, so in terms of the build-up, it's not exactly looking the best, but then again, Vitor Pereira kind of proved that he didn't necessarily need build-up last season. In 15th place, and AI has gone for Crystal Palace. Unusual, as I don't think they've actually finished below 14th in any of their 11 seasons that they've been back in the Prem, and obviously 12th is like their spiritual home. In 14th place for me, now I've gone with Bournemouth. Their attack has pretty much stayed the same. They've kept players like Semenyo, Evan Ilkson and Kluivert, who were all quite consistent for them last season. Andoni Areola, who's been a massive part of Bournemouth's rise in recent years, keeping him is massive for them. But they've not done a good job in keeping their main players though. All of the starting back 5 from last season are probably not going to be the starters for this season. Kepa's no longer there, Kirkis is no longer there, Zabanya is no longer there, and Huijsen's no longer there. The only player who's still there is Adam Smith, and I can't see him getting the consistent minutes. He's not been used as much in pre-season as Araujo. That back five for them last season of Kepa, Kerkez, Huijsen, Zabani and Smith played over 13,000 minutes from them last season in total. The back five that started their last pre-season game, which was Petrovic, Truffert, Senesi, Gil and Araujo, they only played 2,000 minutes for them last season. A completely new defence is going to take a lot of time to gel together. They still need to make a lot of signings. The only signings they've made so far have been Petrovic and Truffert, who, yeah, they look like good replacements for them, possibly improvements, but they've not got two new centre-backs. I don't think they need to sign a right-back, but I think it would definitely help them. Their pre-season has been a fairly mixed bag. They've got 3 wins, a draw and 2 losses. They've scored 11, but they have conceded 9, but 4 of them came in 1 game. I think their attack will definitely carry them, but I think they will be kind of a bit like a Brentford under Frank, in kind of will score more than you, but again, that defence is just still, at the moment, too weak for me. 14th place, and AI's gone for Fulham. Unlucky 13th now, and I've gone with Fulham. Obviously, the main thing for Fulham this season has been their transfer business and the fact that they haven't done any. The only signing they've made has been backup goalkeeper Lecomte for $500,000. If there's one thing you don't want to do in mid-table, it's stagnate. I think if you stagnate as a mid-table team, you just slowly start to see yourself slipping away. They've only got 22 senior players in the squad right now, so it's a fairly small squad. They've had no real losses though, like I said. Willian, Carlos Vinicius, and then the loan signings of Luke Harris and Steven Bender, they're not going to affect them massively. However, in pre-season, they've got 3 wins in 3 games. They still need to sign players. I'm not quite sure why they haven't. I don't even think I've seen them linked with anyone apart from Raheem Sterling. If Sterling does sign for Fulham, I think it'd be quite okay because Marco Silva has kind of shown that he can revitalise players. Willian at Arsenal was fairly poor, and then he went to Fulham and he did quite well. Andreas Pereira and Raul Jimenez have also followed that trajectory. In 13th place, and AI's gone for Brentford, so they think they'll be okay losing their best players, manager, a lot higher than where I put them. In 12th place, and surely the safe bet here would be to go for Crystal Palace. But just like their place in the Europa League, I'm going to say that Nottingham Forest are going to steal it from them. So obviously that is a massive drop-off from their 7th place last season, and I think there is quite, not cause for concern, but I think that they will definitely slip back into mid-table. Obviously the main thing is going to be the Europa League. It's going to take a lot out of the players. There's going to be less focus on the Prem season, and there's obviously increased injury risk. Their poor end of season form was what made them slip from 3rd to 7th place. Will they be able to kind of discard that out of their mind and then grow and rebuild? Or can they replicate what they did last season with that high form? While the Europa League, like I said, could take more out of them, it can also mean that they can potentially spend more and then attract more players. Keeping Morgan Gibbs-White is not just going to keep the fans happy, it's also going to keep the squad happy, as well as Mr. Marinakis. They've kept 5 clean sheets in pre-season, however, they've got no wins. 5 draws and 2 losses, and they've only scored 1 goal, that being from Chris Wood. I think teams have kind of figured out the weaknesses in Forest's tactics. It is just kind of sit back, soak up the pressure, and then just hit them on the counter-attack with pace on the wings. However, Nuno has had back-to-back 7th place finishes with Wolves before, but then he went from back-to-back 7th places to back-to-back 13th. In 12th place, an AI has gone for Wolves, so again, higher than where I've put them, but I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if they finish there. And again, I think that's probably kind of the end of that group that I've put them in, or the mini group. I think Forest are kind of the midway point of what I would call group 2.5. I think 16th to 13th, most of the teams in these groups I've put them in, I think they'll stay in those groups. Like, I think 20th to 17th will be those teams, and I think they could potentially just swap positions around depending on managerial changes, transfer window, stuff like that. In 11th place for me, the top of the bottom half, I've gone for West Ham. This is quite interesting because I've seen a lot of people putting West Ham quite low, especially the fans themselves. They've had no European football for 2 seasons now, so I think that'll kind of manage to get them their fitness back. As well as that, Potter's had a full pre-season, so I think he'll be able to fully embed his tactics within the squad. I think Potter will be able to replicate the form he had in his later years at Brighton, you know, finishing low top half / high bottom half. I They've been looking good in pre-season. In their 5 games, they've had 3 wins, a draw and a loss. They've scored 9 and they've only conceded 5. Bowen and Füllkrug have been absolutely flying in pre-season, Bowen with 2 goals and an assist and Füllkrug with 3 goals. GF's looked like a promising signing so far. While he's only got 1 assist and a clean sheet in 4 games, the amount of crosses that he's been putting in, they have been very dangerous. Obviously, Todibo on a permanent looks like a good signing, but I think Mads Hermansen is going to go quite under the radar. Last season he made the 3rd most saves in the league, so again I think it'll be kind of similar to Ramsdale, but he's not just a good shot stopper, he's a very good ball playing goalkeeper, which Potter will definitely want to use. They only finished 15th with Potter at the helm last season, and 9 players have left. Obviously Kudus is the main one, but players like Kufal, Antonio and Cresswell, as well as Fabianski, they've lost them all on a free. They've signed Wilson on a free transfer, and he's a good option. He's got very good goal scoring record against West Ham, so they'll be hoping he can kind of maybe, I don't know, duplicate it at West Ham. The squad still feels fairly aged compared to the rest of the league, and obviously that has been a kind of recurring issue for them in recent years. In 11th place for AI, they've gone with Brighton. In 10th place for me, and I've gone with Crystal Palace. What the Conference League means that they'll play less games than they would in the Europa League, and they'll probably be able to rotate more. They'll also feel like they can win it. Glasner has proven that he can do well with them in the league. If you take out their poor start to last season where they were winless in the first 8 games, they were the 7th best team, picking up 50 points in 30 games. With the full pre-season now, the first time they've properly had that under Glasner, they're looking like they could start the season in full swing. The FA Cup and Community Shield wins have proven that they can beat the big teams on the big occasions, but as well as that, it's also going to boost morale massively. Their starting 11 is probably capable to break into the top 6 maybe, at least the top 8. They've had no major losses yet. Eze, Gay and Mateta have all stayed, and although it looks like they could potentially leave, I think if they were going to leave, they've been linked to Champions League clubs. I think they're not going to have waited for Europa League or Conference League. If they're going to be in the Champions League, I think they would have just left already. However, they've only got 21 senior players fit right now, a very small squad, and they need signings. Their only signings so far have been backup left back Borna Sosa, as well as backup goalkeeper Walter Benitez for free. For me, I think they probably need at least 2 centre backs. They've only got 3 fit ones at the minute. I think a backup right back's obviously crucial for them. Potentially they might need another centre mid. Decore is becoming quite an injury risk. He's becoming a bit of a Lavia. He looks like such a good player when he plays, but he's just never fit. And they also need a backup striker. And in 10th place for AI, they've gone with Everton. In 9th place for me, and I've gone with Brighton. This for me finishes out what I would call group 2.5. I suppose you could kind of split it into 2 groups or make it 1 group, but I think 16th to 9th, they'll all kind of be safe. I think last season the gap was about 14 points or so. I could see it potentially being smaller. But let's get into Brighton. Obviously season 2 with Fabian Herzler, the players will be much more used to his system, and that proved so in the second half of last season. In those final 19 games, Brighton were the 6th best team in the league. No Europe this season means that they can have full focus on the league as well as the cups. De Kuyper looks like a phenomenal signing. 75 goal contributions in 222 games, which is about a goal contribution every 3 games for a left back, is absolutely insane. As well as that, he can also take penalties, but it's not just his attacking side of the game that's good. In pre-season, Herzler's used him as an inverted centre-back, as well as that bombing left-back. 2 key players in João Pedro and Purvis Estupiñán have gone out the door. Estupiñán's replacement looks like it could be an upgrade, but João Pedro's, let me get up his name. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his first name because I'll probably absolutely butcher it and I'll probably offend someone. But Costulas, he's not proven. He played 21 games in Olympiacos, his first team last season, but he only scored 6 goals in that time. That's about a goal every 200 minutes or so, but that's the Greek league. Obviously, he might be able to rapidly improve. This does feel like a classic Brighton signing though. I could see him potentially leaving in a couple of years for what is treble what they paid for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he scored like 25 goals this season, but at the same time I wouldn't be surprised if he couldn't score 5. And in 9th place, AI agrees with me about this team's high place finish. They've gone with West Ham. In 8th place for me, and the first of the European places, depending on if England get the coefficient and the cup winner, I've gone with Spurs. I did have Spurs a lot higher in my initial predictions I made a couple of weeks ago, but it's just, the more I see of them and the more I think about it, I think that they'll struggle more. Obviously no more Ange Postecoglou means that they should have a lot less injuries in a much less aggressive and physically demanding system. Frank looks like a good appointment on paper, kind of keeping with that theme of attacking-minded managers. The free-flowing attack and the flying wing-backs which he used at Brentford will work quite well with Spurs' players. Kudus for 55 million is obviously the main signing. He looks like he could be good on paper, but obviously Kudus has had inconsistencies. Loan signings made permanent of Matthias Tell for 30 million and Danso for 22 look good. Obviously, again, no adjusting period. João Palhinha on loan for them could potentially be their best signing. I think he'll basically just stay in that 6 role the whole time. He'll be that defensive midfielder, he'll make crunching tackles, he'll probably pick up about 14 yellow cards. They've had 2 wins, 3 draws and a loss in pre-season. Their only loss came against Bayern, however it was 4-0. They are not exactly replicating what the free-flowing attack, which I thought they would be, has been in pre-season so far. They've only scored 6 goals and they've actually conceded 7. Champions League football could definitely hamper their season. You know, it could continue the injury troubles that they had last season. I also still think that they don't have a clinical striker. As well as that, Son leaving is going to have a massive impact on the players, the fans, but also just the atmosphere of the club itself. AI has put Newcastle in 8th place, so they're predicting quite a big drop-off from last season. 7th place for me, and I've gone with Manchester United. They signed 2 of the best players from the bottom half last season, and Mbeumo and Cunha got a combined 49 goal contributions in the Prem alone last season. Sesko definitely looks like he can be an improvement on Højlund. I mean, it'd be pretty hard not to. We don't know how good Sesko is. He's an unproven in the Prem. He could struggle. It can take time to adapt, but I think he'll be decent. I think he'll probably get around, I'll say 13 goals. They've not made any sales at all. They need the money to be able to buy players, you know. I think they still need another centre-back or 2. They've only got 3 fit ones in the minute. For me, they still need another centre-mid. I think Bruno Fernandes doesn't have the positional discipline to be able to play as a number 8. But also, they could potentially be getting a new goalkeeper in Gianluigi Donnarumma. While other clubs are looking at him, Man United should definitely try and sign him. They've needed a goalkeeper for quite a while, and Donnarumma proved last season that he's still one of the best. A full pre-season under Ruben Amorim, and I definitely think they'll be able to improve. He did better in his 2nd season at Sporting. He won the league with them. Obviously, I don't think he's going to win the league. Players that Amorim didn't want, like Anthony, Garnacho and Sancho, they're no longer an issue as they're no longer at the team. They are unbeaten in pre-season, picking up 2 wins and 3 draws, conceding 5 in 5 and scoring 9. Obviously, no European football is going to be able to give the squad a rest. They can fully focus on the league. They're not going to be playing the hectic Thursday-Sunday schedule. 7th place for AI, moving up a place from where I had them. They've gone for Spurs. 6th place for me, and just missing out on a Champions League spot again if England get the coefficient, which based off the amount of teams they have in Europe, they definitely should. I've gone for Newcastle. The main thing in the summer for Newcastle has been Alexander Isak. Will he stay, will he leave? At the moment, I'm just going off what I can see. I think he will stay. If he does play, will he be able to just, you know, throw that out of his mind and go, I'm here, I need to stay professional and I need to just score, do my part, and then whatever happens, happens. It does seem like a lot is lying on this transfer, but that is definitely the case. Alanga definitely improves their winger options for 53 million. Ramsdale on loan looks like a good option. They've got one of the strongest starting 11s in the league, but again, I think Champions League football could definitely damage them. Last time they were in the Champions League, they struggled in the Prem until about March when they'd already been knocked out and then they'd kind of regrouped. They've managed to get a bit of a rest and then they managed to end the season in good form. Their squad depth as a whole is still too weak. Only really goalkeeper and winger is good backup options. Eddie Howe, however, does consistently, I wouldn't necessarily say overperform, but compared to where they have been previously, he definitely is an overperformer. Teams are not going to enjoy going to St James's Park. However, that's not looked the case in pre-season. 2 draws and 4 losses is not exactly looking good. They've scored 5 goals in 6 games and they've conceded 12. You would think that that's not like the defence, but it's been pretty much what their starting defence was last season. Hull, Botman and Livramento, they are good defenders, but they have proven that they're injury prone. And asking them to play more games now, I think again that could potentially lead to risks. I was really tossing and turning in my brain whether I should put Newcastle in 7th or potentially 8th. But again, I think that Eddie Howe will just be able to grind out results for them. He's proven that he can do it time and time again. And in 6th place for AI, they have gone with Aston Villa. And I've gone with Aston Villa for 5th. They only finished 6th last season on goal difference, and that was with Champions League football. Emery has proven that he is a consistent winner in the Europa League, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went on to win it. They haven't sold anyone major yet. Obviously, the Europa League will allow Emery to rotate a lot more than he did in the Champions League. They've not really made any transfers. Evan Gassan is the only real incoming of any meaning. Obviously, Marco Bizzo looks like a good backup goalkeeper. Definitely better than Olsen, but Gasson got 21 goal contributions in 33 league games for Nice last season, and he can play on either wing and up front. I think he's a good backup option / potential competition, but they have failed to replace key players they had on loan last season. Rashford, Asensio and Dizazi slightly less so. They've not really had any replacements for them. Villa still are quite open though. They didn't really keep many clean sheets last season. They conceded 8 so far in pre-season, but they have scored 13. They've picked up 3 wins, 2 draws and a loss in pre-season, so it's been quite good. And in 5th place for AI, they have gone for Manchester United. So again, that closes out one of the mini groups that I would put the Premier League into. I think 5th to 8th is going to be the European, not contenders, but the European places. Into the almighty top 4 now, and I think any team in this top 4 could potentially win the league. They've all got pros and they've all got cons as to why they could win it and why they won't. But in 4th place for me, and I have gone with Chelsea. Obviously, the main thing is that they won the Club World Cup. I feel like if they hadn't have won that, a lot of people wouldn't have been saying that they're title challengers. They proved that they could beat big teams on big occasions and win trophies under Maresca, and Palmer looks to be in form again. He's got 3 goals and 3 assists in his last 6 games, and it's not just Palmer in good form. Chelsea as a whole, they've gone massively under the radar recently. They've won 16 out of their last 18 games, keeping 9 clean sheets in them. So it's not just the attack that's improved, but the defence has improved massively, especially in that last third of the season. They've had a free scoring attack recently. They've scored 20 in their last 7 games, and that doesn't like it's going to slow down anytime soon, given their last 2 pre-season games. Their squad depth is probably the best in the league. They've got pretty much a replacement for everyone, and it's not really a massive drop-off in quality. The new signings like Gittins, Esteval, Willian, Delap, and especially João Pedro look like they've been in the squad for years. Obviously, it's not just the midfield and attack that's important to win a league. Robert Sanchez has proven that he's still a worry. While he had a brilliant game in the Club World Cup final, he still had a few errors in it. As well as that, Levi Colwill being out for the season, I know for sure that has caused a lot of pain for Chelsea fans. Just over a week before the season started, he was looking like he was going to be nailed on to play 38 games, pretty much every single minute. Champions League football can also be a worry for Chelsea. While it is proven that they're going to get quality and that they've got players, they played 64 games last season and they're probably set to play at least another 50, which means they'll be playing over 110 games in a 2-year period. You can see why they've got a massive squad depth, because they'll need it. Like I said, I think every team in the top 4 is going to challenge for the title, and I think Chelsea, they'll kind of drop off in maybe February or March. I think if they get far in the Champions League, that might take a bit of a front seat in their minds, and like I said, although they've got a massive squad, if they get injuries, they could be weak in one position potentially. Centre-backs, again, the defence is just not strong enough to consistently win trophies at the highest level. In 3rd place for me, and I actually changed this just before I started recording, I was looking at their recent results and I was looking at their squad and I just thought Arsenal are better. And in 3rd place, I've gone for the reigning champions. Liverpool, they've made many good signings. Wirtz for 108 million, Ekitike for 69, Kirkus for 40.5, and Frimpong for 34. They all looked very good in the Community Shield. They were probably the best players on the pitch, actually, in my opinion. Kirkes looked so strong defensively. Obviously, Frimpong looked so good bombing up and down that right-hand side. It does, however, mean that Salah will be asked to play in a more central role, and he has been doing that in pre-season, and he's not been as prolific. As well as that, Salah wasn't that good towards the end of last season. He only got 3 goals and an assist in 14 games. However, arguably, on paper, they've got the strongest 11 in the league. They've kind of sold players that they can really afford to sell as well. Diaz for 60 million, Nunez for 45, Quansah for 30. They're not exactly massive losses, but obviously one of the main things for Liverpool this season has not been transfers. Obviously, the tragic passing of Diogo Jota, is going to affect the squad. Obviously, it took a massive toll on the players and the fans. He was one of the most loved players at Liverpool, and he's going to be a massive miss. Moving aside, though, back onto the footballing side, I think that their defence is slightly too weak now. They've not kept a single clean sheet in any of their pre-season games, and they've conceded 11. Kirkes looked like their best defender in the Community Shield. Both goals came from Van Dijk errors, giving away the penalty and then stepping forward unnecessarily. Gomez and academy player Reece Williams are both injured at the minute, so they've got no replacement for them if one of them gets suspended or injured. I also think there'd potentially be too much expectation on them to go back-to-back. They're the outright favourites, but they've not won back-to-back titles since 1984. You have got to remember, this is only their second Premier League title win. Obviously, I know that they were prolific winners before, but in the last 30 years or so, they've only won 2 titles. Not only that, but I think there could potentially be a slight issue that has affected other massive teams before, especially national teams like England. There could potentially be too many big name players. I don't know whether Slot will be able to fit all of the players who want to be playing week in, week out in. It potentially cause unrest in the side and unsettle the harmony that was there. And AI seems to agree with me on this. They've also put Liverpool in 3rd. And in 2nd place for me, I'm so sorry Arsenal fans, but I've got you as runners up again. Despite the fact that they finally signed the striker they've been wanting for 3 or 4 years, they have said that with Jesus and Havertz, and it's not worked out. Gyökeres for 57 million is a massive signing. He scored 97 goals in 102 games in his 2 seasons at Sporting. As well as that, he's 27, so he could potentially be in his prime era. Arteta also looks to have changed to a slightly more attacking side. He's changed to a 4-2-3-1, so Odegaard will now play as a 10 and he'll be higher up pitch, and it will also allow Rice to have more forward freedom, as Zubimendi will just kind of stay in that 6 role. The defence still looks as solid as ever. Gabriel and Saliba look like they're going nowhere. Right behind them still looks like a decent goalkeeper. Obviously Ben White and Timber now being both injury free. That could potentially be a left back and a right back, or it could potentially be very good competition. Their pre-season has looked very promising as well. They've got 3 wins, but they've also got 2 losses. However, they have outshot every single opponent in total 81-32. So they're looking like they're going to be shooting a lot more this season. Gyökeres is unproven in the Premier League though. He only scored 1 goal in 4 games against Porto and Benfica, who were the other top 2 sides. They've still not got a standout left winger either. Martinelli has been a constant issue for Arsenal, especially their fans. Trossard is always a good bench option, but as a starter, he's not consistent enough. And Madueke, although he's a good backup for Saka, he only played at left wing 5 times last season. But obviously the main thing is Arteta. Can he go 4 years in a row with a title challenge? Which does mean in 1st place, and I have got Man City. They just feel like inevitable winners, to be honest. Pep's so used to winning titles. He's had kind of a mini rebuild. He's got 35 players, so he's got a good squad depth. If you take out the period where they had 1 win in 13, and they struggled to adapt without Rodri last season, they were the best team in the league. They had 66 points in 29 games, they only conceded 27, and they only had 3 losses. Liverpool were 2nd best with 63 points. Reinders, Cherki and Ait-Nouri look like signings that they've needed, especially in those positions. They kind of used to be able to play without Rodri now. I think Reinders will definitely be able to be a good replacement for him. He's played as a 6 for AC Milan, but you can also play as an 8 as well. Ait-Nouri and Trafford will definitely shore up the defence. I don't know whether Trafford will actually start, but he started their only pre-season game and then came off at half-time. Ait-Nouri and Matheus Nunes as the 2 fullbacks, which look like they're going to be the 2 starting fullbacks, will definitely provide very good attacking options out wide. However, I do think that their defence could potentially still be too open, or if not unproven together. As well as that, injuries could be a massive underlying factor for the citizens. You know, again, similar to Chelsea, they've kind of had to play over 110 games in a 2-year period. And AI agrees with me with spot 1 and 2. They've said Man City will win the league and Arsenal will finish 2nd. So with that, that is the end of the predictions for the table itself. I'm now going to go through a few other predictions like cup winners who I think will be player of the season and other stuff like that. So Golden Boot, and I've gone for Haaland. I mean, it's only right. Man City win the league, Haaland gets the Golden Boot. Initially I hired Isak, but then once I heard stuff about him leaving, I thought he might not start, at least for the start of Newcastle, and even if he does go to Liverpool, he might not be able to settle in well, and he also might not be a prolific goal scorer. Golden Glove, and again a kind of comfortable one, I've gone with David Raya. He's got it the last few seasons, and I think he'll make it another one. Player of the season, and interestingly, despite the fact that I said I think they'll finish in 4th, I've gone for Cole Palmer. He looks like he's going to be in scintillating form. 6 goal contributions in his last 6 games. I think he'll be able to potentially get over 30 goal contributions next season. Young player of the season, and this is quite interesting because I seem to be the only one who seems to be picking up on this, but I've gone for Savinho. I did have him as my young player of the season before the stuff about him joining Spurs came out. I thought I'd look at their Club World Cup games and their pre-season games, and Savinho played every single game for Man City in the Club World Cup, apart from the one where Pep rotated his whole team. I think Savinho will have a pretty good season. Obviously, last season he didn't fare quite well. I actually had him as my flop transfer last season, so I've had a massive 180 on him. Overachievers, and I don't know whether you can say Man City, because they've won the league so many times, it's kind of just expected. I know that they're not favourites, or at least second favourites to win it this time round, but if you're not including Man City, then I've gone with West Ham. And then on the opposite side, underachievers, I've gone with Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. Again, based off my table, there's not really any like massive standout predictions there. It's not like I've said, you know, Leeds will finish in 9th place or something, because obviously they would be the overachievers then. Best transfer now, and I couldn't decide on the 2, so I've gone for João Pedro as the first one. Came straight from the beach and he started scoring for them, and it's not looking like he's going to stop that anytime soon. He's got 2 goals in 2 pre-season games. The second option, I've gone for Reinders, and like I said, I think he'll be crucial for Man City. I think he'll be a solid defensive midfielder that they've needed, but again, I think he'll be able to contribute attacking wise as well, proven in their pre-season game where he came off the bench and he got a brace. Flop transfer now, and to be honest, I could have gone for Kyle Walker, because I think that he'll not do well for them, but I've gone for Jordan Henderson. Best manager now, and I've gone for Pep Guardiola. I mean, it's only right that the team that wins the league should have the best manager, especially as last season they didn't perform as well to his standards. Breakout star, and again I've gone for 2 because I don't really know if you can count one of them. The first one I went with was Daniel Marlin. He's looked absolutely scintillating in pre-season, picking up goal contribution after goal contribution. If he doesn't start the season, I'll be massively surprised. But obviously, he was already a known player. So if you're not going to go with Marlon, I've gone for El Hadji Malik Diouf from West Ham. Shock season, and again, I could go potentially Marlon, Diouf or Savinho, but I've decided to go with Savinho. First manager sacked, and I took quite a big look into this, but to be honest, there was already really one standout for me. I said it earlier in the video, I don't think he's a Prem quality manager. I've gone for Daniel Farke. I've also actually predicted what day I think he'll be sacked. I think he'll be sacked on the 8th of November, which is after their 11th game of the season. I can't see them starting well. I think if they're in the bottom 3 in the first 11 games, that they'll get rid of him. They wanted to in the summer, but they decided to back him. I think that would potentially be a bad decision. Conference League, I haven't seen who else is in it, but surely the standout would be Crystal Palace. I mean, Glasner has won the Europa League with a pretty similar squad. Europa League, kind of similar reasonings. Emery, he's won it so many times. He got far in the Champions League. Villa haven't made any sales. They've made a couple of signings that have improved them. Champions League, and again, it was kind of like the Premier League title for this. There wasn't really a standout team for me. There was pros and cons for every single team. It's been too long since they won it. I know they only won it a few years ago, but I've gone for Bayern Munich. And onto the 2 domestic cups. Carabao first, and it's been too long since they've won it. I've gone for Man City. Which means the FA Cup is the final prediction for this video, and they've proven that they can win a cup, they've proven that they can beat big teams, and then they've proven that they can have one day where they completely change the system around like they did against PSG in the Club World Cup final. I think the FA Cup winners, it's been too long since they've won a game at Wembley, especially a final. I think it'll be Chelsea. And with that is the end of my Premier League predictions. Let me know what you thought of them. Who do you think will be better, mine or AI? Do you think that my other predictions like the Golden Boot, etc. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your predictions are in the comments. And if you did enjoy the video, leave a like down below. I'll put my Instagram and TikTok in the description again. Until the next video, goodbye.